Three things impacted my scrapbooking in January. The first was jury duty. I was summoned to serve for jury duty in the month of January, and that meant I had to clear my calendar to make sure I would be available when called. It also meant that I wasn't there every day. Well, I did not get seated on a jury, but because I had cleared my calendar, I had free time. And guess what I did with it? Quite a few layouts. This is just a part of them. The second thing that impacted my scrapbooking in the month of January was I started for the 6th year the 100 Pattern Paper Challenge. That is a Facebook group where you're challenged to use up 100 pieces of pattern paper out of your stash. And there's two ways to do it. Over the past few years, I count up. I just count the pieces of pattern paper I use as I make layouts. I'm still doing that. But another way is to make a pile of 100 pattern papers and start pulling from that to make layouts. And because I wanted to use some of the papers in my stash that had been there for quite a while, I made a pile and I'm pulling from it. And I'm thrilled to say that this layout came from that pattern paper pile. I made this bottom border of windmills from the Creative Memories Lighthouse Border Punch. But I turned these lighthouses into windmills by making these pinwheels with 7/8" squares. The pinwheels turn out to be a little bit large, so I can't put one on every single little structure here, but it gets the point across. And I was inspired by this embellishment that has been in my stash for the longest time. And so I was really thrilled to get it on a page. And another challenge for myself in 2026 was to use more of these Project Life cards. And so I'm making a point to use my older stash in 2026. And I know I'm not alone. And the third thing that impacted my scrapbooking during the month of January was that I had fallen way behind in my month in review album. So I made it a point to start getting caught up, and I did get several layouts made, and you're going to see some of those in this video. This is from my month in review album. I pulled papers from my pile of 100 pattern papers for that challenge to use here. I made this envelope with the Creative Memories envelope maker. I made this border in the black and white with the custom cutting system. And I made these tags also with the custom cutting system in which I journal the stories related to these pictures. Now, when I do monthly review, this happens to me quite a bit where I'll have so many stories to tell, but I don't want to dedicate a whole page to each story. My monthly review is highlights of the month. And so I just put mini highlights. Dinner I had with friends, Easter came around, little problem with my car. And this was the highlight of him coming home and the rest of our April. This is from my month in review album. And once again, I pulled paper from paper pads and from my 100 pattern papers. And I made some embellishments here and used a Project Life sticker. All of these are goals I have set for myself for 2026. And in this photo is the Blue Diamond Almond Mobile. We were traveling and we saw this parked at our hotel, and I just had to go down and get a photo. Before, once we got checked in, I went, I'm taking a picture of that thing before it leaves. And I wasn't the only one out there taking photographs of it. If you're familiar with the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile, I guess Blue Diamond has their own version of it. I made the oval with this Creative Memories custom cutting template. Now, I haven't seen this for sale recently, and if it's a product you'd like to see them bring back, I recommend that you send an email to cmproductsuggestion@creativememories.com and say bring back the Jumbo Oval custom cutting system. This is another layout from my month in review album. I am documenting more unusual stories of the month, including a hailstorm, a visit to New Rochelle, New York, and going to one of my favorite places, the New Rochelle Diner, which whenever we're in town, we usually stop by and have a meal there. We really love it. I pulled papers from my 100 pattern papers to use here, and I hadn't used this punch. This is by Creative Memories. It's called Iron Gate. When I'm working on my month in review, I have several stories I may tell on a single layout. So sometimes I like to block them off. So I told this side of the page, 6 inches roughly, the story of going to New Rochelle, New York and eating at the New Rochelle Diner. And on this side, I sort of made a 6 by 12 layout, and the focal was the hailstorm that we received that month, which was a bit late and unusual. And the hail was really large. So this layout is when I flip over to the month of June in my month in review album. And I'm just telling a couple of stories of a day trip I took and getting new eyeglasses. I pulled from my stash again, and this particular border was a border I made a long time ago, decided I didn't like it, and I kind of put it away. And this year I'm trying to go through and use some of these items that are in my stash, use the older paper, use this border I made a long time ago. And so on this layout, it worked out for me. I was able to tell these two stories on this one page and get this border used and out of my stash. This layout is in my month in review album, and I was really happy with it. It's documenting a road trip we took to South. This is us stopping at a rest stop in Georgia, and this is us entering the state of Alabama. And here is our luggage at one of the hotels we stopped at. And what I was really happy about is I pulled out an old sticker sheet that I had that had these large, large stickers. And I was able to actually finally use them because they're made of peaches and we were in Georgia. Now, my month in review album is a Creative Memories album with the classic refill pages. As you can see, this jeeping on the end gives that away. And I'm using other than Creative Memories papers in this occasion. And Creative Memories papers are lighter weight than papers by other brands. And I'm trying to use some papers by other brands in this album. And I'm sensitive to the weight. If I were to wallpaper all of these pages with other brands of paper, but yet I want creative ways to use them. And so in this case, what I did was I cut a mat for the upper part of the paper, which is the story of the rest stop. But I cut the frame. I cut a 3/4 inch frame around, and then I placed the pictures inside of that frame. I really love the results. And then for the bottom part, being on the road, I just used the white background that is on the refill page. This 2-page layout is from my month in review album, and I am just documenting group family photos, group picture on this side, and us going out to dinner on this side. Once again, I'm pulling through my 100 pattern papers, and that really makes me happy. And for the family reunion, we were wearing gold and blue shirts. So I applied the gold and blue theme to the whole family reunion spreads that I'm putting in my monthly album. The highlight of this layout was this lovely border that I was inspired to make based on the Creative Chatterbox video. I'll have a link in the description and in the card above. I also was inspired by Linda Patu at Linda's scrapbooking station for the bottom border. I combined 2 border maker cartridges, and I really like how this turned out. I used the Smile border maker cartridge that came in secret box number 5 from 2025 and the Crested Waves border maker cartridge. And I have a link to Linda's video in the description and the card above. And this is another family reunion photo from my month in review album. And once again, this paper came from my pile of the 100 pattern papers. And as I mentioned earlier, being sensitive to the weight of my paper, I took this blue paper and I made what we call a C cut out of it, such that the white background of the refill page comes through, but I still have this nice mat all the way around framing my photos. These are just square photos I put on here, and these embellishment clusters I made with punches, dies, and stamps. Now this is a left side page in my month in review album. I used the L design, you could call it a T design here. I just made something simple. I loved making these 4-layer borders. I used the Infinity Heart border punch, and then I used the scallop blade on my 12-inch trimmer, and I used paper from that 100 pattern paper pile that I made to try to use up. This is the final page of the month in review family reunion photos, and I have 4 3.5 by 3.5 photos. I've canted this one, the others are straight, and then 2 3 by 4 photos over here. I had a strip of this yellow and this dark bluish paper, and so I wanted to make this look cohesive. I had a small strip of this remaining, is really a scrap, but I just put it across. You can see a tiny seam right there if you look hard enough, and I may put an embellishment over it or something. But I was happy to get this layout into my album of these special family moments during the year. This was a fast grid style layout where I let the 4x6 photos fill the page. I used the scallop border maker cartridge and the crocheted lace chain border to make this. The cross is an EK Success punch that I use on layouts whenever I am scrapbooking churches and cathedrals. This was made from scraps, and I covered up paper I wasn't crazy about and put the dark blue here, a strip of dark blue here, and a strip of there, and covered the rest using the photos. This was a simple layout that I was just playing around with the custom border templates. So I made this border with the peak custom border template, and I made this chain with the beaded ovals border punch. It's very simple. I just made a band down the side and put my pictures on. It was a super quick layout. Sometimes you really like your super quick layouts. This layout was my submission for the January Creative Memories Virtual Crop Group Sketch Challenge. I was really happy to be getting more family photos worked on. Another one of my goals for 2026. This layout was also an entry for the Creative Memories Virtual Crop Challenge in January. And I was thrilled to be able to use my Shark border punch from Creative Memories. This layout was full of notched banners. And this layout overall was pretty simple. I made a mat here and made border punches here, and I actually used the ribbon lace chain and cut it down the center to get this part of the border to show at the top and the bottom. I was so thrilled to participate in my very first YouTube hop. I made this layout for the Groundhog Day YouTube hop. I'll have a link below. And I pulled papers from the 100 pattern papers and from some paper pads. I'm also trying to use up more of them this year as well. And I pulled out my old stash of stickers and made embellishment clusters around with them. And I'm using that custom border system again. You know, I'm having fun with that. And I made a custom border here. Quite a bit of it was covered up. And I also used the Monstera leaf border punch to put some decoration here. But I'm really thrilled at how this layout turned out. And because it's the Groundhog Day challenge, I'm going to be making it again next year. I made this layout using the custom border template and the border maker cartridge. I recreated this border in a video that I will link in the description. I made one of these tags using the custom border system as well. I am really loving this. And I have a YouTube short of me making this particular tag. And I just cut this punch. I'll put the name of the punch below that I used to make these squares. This layout came from my stash of pre-made pages a la base pages. And I was really trying to make a point at the start of the year to see if I could use some of the ones I already had made. It's a pretty simple layout. It was just these two bands of paper. And so when I found the photos, I added these borders cut from the Border Maker cartridge. I'll put the name below. And I made this tag, which I really loved, and I made these embellishments with stamps. I think pretty much all of these stamps came from Echo Park. This is the layout I made with the custom border tool. It's the same border as this one. I don't mind repeating. It's very simple. It's just a border. I put my photos on the page, and I made this embellishment by cutting out a single fish with this border punch. I love the band design. I can focus all of my decorations into this area, have plenty space to put my photos, and not worry too much about additional embellishments. This layout has a video, and it was the hidden layout. I made this layout, and then I didn't have room in my album to add a whole new page. And so I decided to bury this second layout underneath the first. Now, I went easy on myself by using the same background paper for both of these, but I have made layouts like these, and I foresee making more where I use different background pages and hide a totally different looking layout underneath the top layout. But I'm really glad that I got these photos into one refill page in my album. I will use a 6-inch by 12-inch peekaboo pocket to put this 6 by 12 piece into the album, and then I will be able to turn it over and see the two layouts. This is a layout that's basically pretty simple. Once again, trying to use up those old paper pads, I was trying to kind of mute the gold foiling on this paper by putting a big bold block in the page and letting this be a frame. I felt it worked out quite good because the colors blended well with the photos. I made a couple of embellishment clusters here and there using dies and punches. This layout is one of the very first ones that I made in my Scraps Only challenge. I actually made the base of this page during the retreat where the challenge was issued. It's just two pieces of paper that I welded together. I literally took a scrap from something we were working on during the retreat and made this little band. I slapped on my photos, threw on a few embellishments. So this is one of the Scraps Only pages that I made. It just doesn't have a video because I created it during the retreat. Now this layout was actually a base page that I made during the fall retreat, and I think I showed it in my September layout share, but now I have pictures on it. I was able to find photos and then make some embellishment clusters here, here, and here. Quite simple. I used a ticket die. I used a sticker from Creative Memories, and I just used the circle punch to create 3 different circles. I had enough photos that I actually used 2 peekaboo pockets here and here. And I also included the ephemera of our tickets from the excursion that we took. Making this layout was sort of part of a class that was offered. I ended up making it my own, and I made this zigzag border, and I have a video on how to make it. It's pretty simple, and it's one of those things when I was in a rush to not fall behind during the class, but I wanted to do something a little different than what they were showing. And so that is what I came up with. And this layout was made pulling papers from my paper pads. And I pulled this paper for a background, and this pattern paper, which is not a strong contrast, but it does show through here a good bit. And I had this wide dark blue strip up here, and then decided it was so heavy I should put a little bit of dark paper down here to kind of give a shelf for the papers to rest on. Then I came along and decided I really like the damask frame punch by Creative Memories, and it gives the sense of ornateness to this cathedral that we visited. And I made some simple embellishment clusters here and here. I hope you have been inspired by this layout share and that you will like this video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, especially if you would like to see a video on some of the techniques shown in these layouts. And YouTube says, here's a video right here that you might enjoy, so I hope you'll watch it.